And we're live! Welcome to the Pitch Wars live show, everyone. I'm Nikki Roberti. I am Brenda's Drake's assistant and a YA mentor, but tonight is the adult and new adult mentor chat, and let me tell you, we've been laughing for like the past 30 minutes in here, so you're in for a treat. So without further ado, I'm going to let them take it away and introduce themselves. Let's start with Carrie.
Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Carrie Callahan. I write historical fiction. I'm represented by Shannon Hassan of Marshall Lion, and I am looking for all your beautiful historical fiction, literary fiction, and literary-ish fantasy.
Hi, I'm Heather Van Fleet. I am an adult and new adult romance writer. I'm represented by Stacey Donaghy of Donaghy Literary. And I am looking for any kind of adult or new adult romance, whether it's, as long as it has a romantic subplot, I should say. But I love contemporary romance, romantic suspense, fantasy with romance, paranormal romance. I'm really not picky as long as it has romance and kissing in it.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenny Ferguson. I am the author of Border Markers, which is forthcoming from New West Press in September, so that's very exciting. I am looking for adult literary fiction, as well as any adult literary and genre mashup books.
Hi everyone, I'm JR Yates, and I am a contemporary romance writer. I am looking for any of your new adult or contemporary adult romance, and I am represented by Stacey Donaghy of Donaghy Literary.
Hello, Kelly Siskind. I am also represented by Stacey Donaghy of the Donaghy Literary Group. I am looking for all of your juicy, yummy contemporary romance and romantic suspense, anything with lots of kissing and swoons and stuff that is exciting. Send it my way.
Hi, I am Mary Ann Marlowe, and I am represented by Jane Distel at Distel and Godrich, and I have a book coming out in February called Some Kind of Magic with Kensington. I am mentoring this year contemporary romance, and I'm co-mentoring with Jamie Lauren, so if you had her on your list and you didn't know, we are now teaming up, and we'll both be looking for contemporary romance with Happy Ever After, Happy for Now, and lots of steam also.
Hello, I'm Margarita Montemore. I write adult upmarket fiction, and I'm also an editor/book coach with Author Accelerator. And I'm looking for a lot of different things this year. Upmarket, contemporary, historical, literary, women's fiction, thriller, suspense, horror, gothic, anything that's dark or offbeat and quirky, very, very light sci-fi or dystopian, and definitely looking for anything that doesn't fit neatly into one genre.
Hi, I'm Marie Meyer, and I write new adult contemporary romance. I'm represented by Louise Fury of the Bent Agency, and I am looking for new adult contemporary romance, fantasy, historical, whatever you have, as long as it has a romantic subplot. And I am in the minority here, but I'm also a YA mentor, so you can also send me anything that you have that falls within the romantic genre of YA.
As you can see, this is a pretty fantastic lineup, and if you're new to Pitch Wars Live, all you have to do if you have a question is go over to Twitter and hashtag it AskMentor. And our awesome Twitter captain for tonight, Michael Mame, is also a mentor, and he is fielding all your questions, and fantastic. So say hi to him, and he'll send your questions over. And if you're watching on the Google Hangout, you can ask it in the room, and I will see them here too. But send it in on Ask Mentor, and we will try to get in as many as we can tonight and ask them live. Which brings us to our first question from Mrs. Martin. And the question is, mentors for romance. Are there things you really like? Say, second chance, surprise/secret baby, etc. Favorites, things you hate. Anyone want to take that one and run with it?
I'll start.
Go for it.
So for me, it's not so much what I'm dying to see. There's maybe like a couple things that aren't high on my priority list. The secret baby trope isn't my favorite. The stepbrother trope, definitely not my thing either. But anything that has, like, you know, you got your second chance romance, absolutely love that. If there's biker romance, all of that stuff is great. The sports romances are wonderful. There's not much that I'm opposed to. It really just depends on, you know, how things are treated and what, you know, how the words come across on the page. I don't know, can anybody read that?
What? They all want scratch and sniff what?
Can you read that?
They all want scratch and sniff erotica. Okay, so
I have like all these tags I'm using and they're not working.
No, I love it. So apparently the smack talk that you've seen on Twitter might be bleeding over to the live show. It might get ugly.
I happen to know that Kelly wants dolphin erotica.
Oh, and apparently, okay, wow. This is going to be the best chat ever, guys. You are in for a treat. JR, did you want to add to the last question?
Yeah, for me, it's there's not any particular tropes that I dislike. The thing that I dislike, and if you read my bio page, you'll know, is when the guy is horrid to the girl and she still loves him because deep down inside he really loves her. That's a no-go for me, because to me, I'm like, no. Like, they can have that love-hate thing where there's like the fireworks, but if he's a complete jerk and she saves him somehow, I can't do that. That's the only thing I can't do. But anything else, I'm good.
Anyone else want to interject real quick?
I have one no-go that I know of because I had a few of them came through last year, and it's where losing virginity is the subplot, or is the main plot, I should say, of the romance. That's sort of like not my thing, especially if you're like 40 and you're losing your virginity. I'm not there with you.
Awesome. And more shots fired. Kelly just said that Marianne wants, what was that? Hold up your sign again. And she prefers gnome erotica. This is awesome.
Backwards. I think I wrote it. It's not coming out straight.
You know, it's coming
Garden
out
gnome?
You know what I'm saying?
Wait, garden gnome?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so next question, guys. This one's from Megan Margery. I apologize if I just butchered your name. After looking through the adult mentor bios, I'm still wondering if any of you are especially looking for entries with child main characters.
I think it depends on how it's done. If it's handled in a literary way, like Room or The Lovely Bones, I'm all for it. I think, you know, it's certainly a challenge, but I'm up for a challenge like that. So if it falls within everything else or anything else in my wish list, I'd be happy to take a look at it.
Agreed, 100%.
Carrie, did you want to add to that?
Oh, that's what I was going to say, exactly. Like, if it fits, otherwise, no problem, but it is a hard thing to do.
Mm. Definitely.
As a romance adult, I'm probably going to say I don't want the main character to be a child.
That could be awkward.
That could be awkward.
Our next question, and keep them coming, guys. If you're just hopping on, I'm seeing the views climb. So if you're just tuning in, it's #AskMentor, and we will ask your questions live to our amazing Pitchworth mentors. This one's from Judy Moore. How do you manage the self-doubt monster threatening to strangle you? How often does he visit you? Carrie, take it away.
I have a lot to say about that. When I first started writing, I couldn't write without hearing in the back of my head, you suck, you suck, you suck. It was like, instead of whatever music I was listening to, that was the mantra that was flowing. And I just had to write through it. And, you know, 10 years, I guess, after that started, it just sort of eventually faded away, and you learn that you don't suck. First drafts suck, but you don't suck. And so you get over it. So keep at it.
I definitely am visited by the doubt monster way more regularly than I would like. I don't think that's something that ever totally goes away for a writer. I think insecurity is part of the like awful monster force that drives us. So for me, I find that really just trying to get lost in the work that I'm doing and stifling the inner critic is huge. And the other thing I really couldn't live without is a support network of just friends and loved ones that have faith in me and aren't tired of telling me so when I need to hear it, and really being cheerleaders and giving me that boost, and I give it back to them. So and that's also one thing I really love about Pitch Wars, that you find your writing family through this community. And that, nothing will ever completely kill the doubt monster, but at least it helps it go into hibernation a little bit more.
Marie, did you want to?
Yeah. I just wanted to add too that
I was going to say the exact same thing. But
yeah, when you're reading books and that you've picked up off the bookstore shelf, that those books have been edited and edited and edited to the nth degree, and you're seeing a very final, polished copy, and that's when that doubt monster also gets in there, and you're like, oh, I can't write this well, and it can be a very scary thing, but you have to remind yourself that this is a first draft, and it will get better with each consecutive revision, and you just have to keep telling yourself that. You can't compare yourself to something that you've picked up off the shelf.
I have a thing I do, which is I talk to myself in the future. I think if I suck right now, I assume that somebody like me in the future is not going to suck, and I'm putting down words now that the future person that is me able to do something with, and I'm going to be happy that I did all of that, even though I suck now. I'm just having confidence that my friends are going to be there. They're going to help pull me through and say, okay, you can fix this mess. And so I just keep working through it, even though I may not have faith in it in the moment.
Awesome. Anyone else want to share about the doubt monster? Which I can say too, it doesn't matter what you write, you will always feel it as a writer.
I'll just say that I've written a lot of books, and I know that when I first started out, I had a really bad review. I wanted to give up, and sometimes those reviews can kill you. The best thing for me is to avoid Goodreads, because that place can kill your heart, And then another thing is just keep yourself buried into a project. Keep going. You got to remember why you're doing this in the first place. Is that you love to write, and you love to build characters, and you want to write something for somebody out there that's going to appreciate what you write and love it. Not everybody's going to love it, but not everybody's going to dislike it either. So.
Well, and when you're full of guilt, or when you're full of that doubt, you have to stop comparing. That's the point in time where you have to step back and you have to stop comparing yourself to other people, because that's not going to help. So find your community and listen to everything that these ladies have said. I co-sign everything. I don't even need to be here.
We want you to. Cool. So, fabulous. This is why I love Pitch Wars, because I need people like you in my lives too, because you just are so wise, and I love you guys. I will buy all your books. Our next person is from Elizabeth Minozzi, and her question is, please share your favorite / least favorite tropes, especially romance tropes and creatures if accepting fantasy. Anyone super passionate about tropes?
I feel like I've already covered that a little bit, so I'll let somebody else take the floor.
Let's focus on creatures, since we did talk about romance already. Anyone have a creature, preference? Is that PC?
I think that Marianne really likes appliance romance, like when toasters come to life.
So no one has a creature preference.
Is this where I say whales?
Whales.
Okay.
Yes.
Which brings us to our fabulous game. We're gonna play Date, Marry, Kill real quick. And since we couldn't name a creature we don't like, we're going to go with literary animals. So, Date, Marry, Kill. Who would you and why? With Moby Dick, Shere Khan from The Jungle Book, and Snowball the Pig from Animal Farm. I pick Margarita. Go.
I was just thinking, like, oh, I hope I don't have to answer this question. Could I pass?
Sure.
I really have to think about it.
Then we'll go with Carrie because she's the one who came up with that combination.
All right, well, it's pretty obvious that you kill Snowball the pig, so that really wasn't that good of a choice. He's a dirty little bastard. But gosh, between Shere Khan and Moby Dick,
There's
I guess,
Dick in the title of one of those. I'm just going to put that out there.
yeah, that's to me sounds like a good date. Maybe quite a few dates, and a really crazy ride. And then Shere Khan, there's nothing like marrying an evil bastard to make your life happy. So. Good literary novel.
Oh, as a young adult author, I don't know if I'm old enough for this chat room, guys. Okay, and before we move on to the next one, because that was fabulous, we're going to do literary pirates. Captain Hook, Jack Sparrow, or Long John Silver, not the fast food chain, from Treasure Island. Let's go with Jenny.
I would have to kill Long John Silver because I have not read that book, so I have no strong feelings, and I kill people I do not have strong feelings for. I know, right? I would have to marry Jack Sparrow for the obvious reasons and date, who was the other one?
Captain Hook.
Yeah, I'd date Captain Hook. He would be fun for a little while.
For a hookup?
Yeah, oh, pun. Well done. Well done, you.
Thank you. I'm here all night, guys. So our next question is from Diana Hicks, which, keep them coming, guys. We're having a great time tonight, as you can see. #AskMentor. And this is for the romance mentors. We know voice can't be fixed, but what about good emotional arc? Can this be fixed during edits? JR, do you want to take that one?
I don't think that voice can't be fixed. I think that voice can't be necessarily taught if you don't have it completely. I know that for me, I had voice in my Pitch Wars manuscript last year, and there were parts where some of it was missing, and Kelly just pointed out places where where I needed to add voice. So that can be something that you can work on for sure. So it's not that it can't be fixed. It's difficult to teach. So if we see some nice nuggets of voice, we just might ask you to put more of it and where. And emotional arc, yeah, absolutely, you can work on that. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I agree with that in terms of, that's exactly what we're here for. Like character arcs, emotion arcs, plot arcs, that's the stuff that I want to sink my teeth into when I get a manuscript. I'm looking for something that needs help and something that I can clearly see where I can benefit it. So that's, what I'm looking for when I get a submission. I'm not looking for perfection. I am looking for something that I can, clearly see this is what it needs and I can help that. So those are things that I have no issues. If there are weak spots there, no problem at all fixing that stuff.
We're going to tell people who have, a great product and they're ready to query that they're ready to query, right?
For sure.
So we want the stuff that needs help, and if you're too close to your manuscript and you can't see that the emotional arc isn't working, or you can see that it's not working, but you need someone to work with you to make it work better, that's exactly why we're here, and that's exactly why you're here.
I want to go back to the voice thing. I know I'm not an adult mentor, but I just wanted to say when I was a mentee, my manuscript had a very passive main character who became friends with a lot of loud characters. And so my betas were like, oh, we loved your book, we love this character, we love that character. And then I'd be like, well, what do you think about Ellie? And they're like, who's that? The narrator. And they couldn't remember her name. And that is the book that got me into Pitch Wars. So my mentor helped me with my voice. If we think we can fix it, we can help. And I think a lot of things are fixable, especially if there's the groundwork for a really amazing book and your talent does show through. Anyone else want to touch on this topic? Carrie.
Yeah, I'm not romance, so this isn't applicable to romance, but in general, I think when thinking about voice, it might, at least for me, it's easier to think of it more like style, because voice you can't change. Like, I can't change the way my voice sounds, but I can develop and flesh out my writing style, and I think that writing style is what gives life to the voice that we hear when we read the page, and I think that makes it just a little bit more attainable.
And when I went through Pitch Wars in 2013 as a mentee, my my mentor was fabulous in helping me dig deeper and find out what my main character was really trying to get to, and it did ramp up the emotion in it. So it is something definitely that can be worked out during Pitch Wars, and that's what we want to see.
I wanted to add about voice. While I can't teach somebody voice, you can definitely learn it. And the way that I found mine was just through writing. In the first book that I wrote, it was, I was learning how to do structure. I was learning how just to put chapters together. When I sat down to write my second book, I just sort of let myself go, and I was shocked to see like words coming out that were kind of fun. And I was like, hey, I'm going to just keep going with this. And then I realized that this was my voice. And I think once you sort of just keep writing and you get to a point where you're seeing stuff that stands out to you is the way that you speak, that's when you realize that's your voice.
Awesome. Our next question is from Liz Kelly. Do you prefer stories that are more of a fast read or a slow burn?
It's a really good question. I think it depends on the mindset I'm in, because like summertime is definitely fun for kind of the lighter reads, but I tend to alternate. I always have at least 3 books that I'm reading at the same time, and it's usually a balance of something that is more fast-paced and then something that's like more literary and thinky. So I would say that, and like I can't even make up my mind for that for Pitch Wars because I really would consider either. It's really kind of, it's that X factor of what am I going to fall in love with, and it really could be either one.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll jump in and say for romance, the slow burn is delicious. But that's all about creating the romantic suspense between the individuals. So if you can, I don't need to have, the intense, sexual connection right away, but if you build that, suspense between the couple getting together, for me, that's quite beautiful. And then conversely, I just, I can sink my teeth into just as well, something that's a little bit more, in your face right away, fast paced, maybe an enemies to lovers romance or something like that. So both work beautifully. I have no preference. If the characters and the words and everything grab me, I would be into either of those completely.
Awesome. We have another preference question, and this one's from Stephanie Sauvanet, and that is, do you have any POV preferences? And then to build off of that, she wants to know your thoughts on dual point of views. Heather.
I'll just say that I prefer dual point of view because I think, especially in romance, when you have something from a guy and a girl's point of view, you want to see, what's going on, like on one end, and you want to feel both their emotions, and that just helps to build up, the connection. So I prefer it, and my biggest thing is you have to go through and make sure you're not using the same phrases and the same words as each of your characters are saying, because I've had that for myself because I write dual point of view, and you just need to make sure only one person says one particular phrase, and it's hard to separate, the voices, but once you get a hang of it, it's pretty easy. So, that's me.
Any other? Kelly, what do you have there now? I can't read it. It's too small. She only wants dino porn subs. Awesome! Dinosaur porn. So as you can see, we, as a loving mentor bunch, also like to throw some smack talk here and there, because we get really competitive about, which manuscripts we want to pick. Anyone want to speak more into Carrie?
Oh, I was going to. Go ahead.
Oh. Go ahead, Jer.
No, it's okay. Carrie can go.
We're all too polite. Although she's Canadian, so she's more polite. So I'll go first. I do have sort of a strong preference and point of view. I'm not a huge fan of first-person point of view, partly because it often ends up feeling very me, and I don't like that. But that said, I have completely fallen in love with books that have first-person point of view, and I can totally manage it. It's all about the story. And dual point of view, absolutely fantastic, lots of fun.
Yeah, I am. I'm good with first person. I like dual point of view. It doesn't have to be that way, though. I'm currently writing a romantic suspense that's single point of view. And third person I'm okay with, but it has to be executed well. Sometimes I find it a little bit too detached, but that's just me. You know, if it's written well, I find that if a book is written well, I don't notice the point of view if it's third person versus first. But it has to suck me in so that I don't even notice. I recently read You by Carolyn Kepnes, and that was in second person, and that was kick-ass. But I don't recommend it unless you're really good, because that's tough to pull off.
I'll take your second person point of views, because I would love to see another book. Like, I was so excited to read that book, because other than Bright Lights, Big City, that's the only one I've seen. I'm sorry, JR, were you done? I didn't mean to cut you off. I just got really excited when you mentioned but in terms of, so I don't have a preference. But for POVs, you know, I don't take romance, but for any other, like, I will take dual POV, 3, 4, 5 POVs. But the most important thing is that each character, A, have their own distinct voice, and B, have their own arc, as well as moving the story forward. So it's, you know, every time you add a POV, you have to think about what you might be losing with character development for each one of those POVs, and you got to make sure that you don't rob the story of that development and arc.
I am going to be fighting Margarita for subs because I have a strong preference for third in literary fiction, but when you can do second point of view well, it is fantastic and amazing, and I love it. And as well, I like more point of views. I just finished a book with 4 point of views in it, and it was really hard to manage, but turned out really fantastic. So bring me your multiple points of view. Bring me your second person, your novel in the second person. If you can pull that off, I would like to see that.
I like first-person POV. I've written in first-person POV, and I've also written in dual POV, also in first person. And like JR said, that third person is great too, but it has to be executed well, and it's all about the story.
Yep, I'll be the last one to chime in, and it's, oh no, Marianne, go Marianne. I'm the Canadian, you go. Go, go, go.
Well, I'm easy because I'm easy. I like first person, I like third person, as long as it's third person close. I want to be riding right on the shoulder of my characters. And I don't care if it's dual or if it's single point of view, as long as it's executed well. I'm easy, see?
Kelly, did you want to jump in again?
Sure, yeah, I'll just say that I know that Marianne's easy. We shared a room at RWA one year. But aside from that, yeah, same deal. It's if it's well written, I'm all for it. I maybe lean a bit more towards first person. I love dual point of view. Single works well. I've written in both. Third person, when it's done well, sucks me right in, but I may be a little harder on it because sometimes I do feel a bit removed from it. But like I said, if it sucks me in, I'm yours.
Have I mentioned I'm Canadian too? So there are a couple of us who can be going back and forth with the stories if we want to get that going.
I love Canadians. You guys are cool and have great maple syrup. I went there on my honeymoon, and that's like all I drank was maple syrup. So our next question is a really great question, so we're all going to answer it. It's from Alyssa Dickey, and she asks, what will make you request more? What makes you stop reading a manuscript? And we're going to start with Carrie.
That's really tough because I'm a first-time mentor, so I don't really have much experience to go on, but I suspect what would make me stop would be complete and utter confusion. If I can't figure out what's going on, then that's probably not something I can help you with.
For me, what would make me stop is some of the overused beginnings, like waking up or looking at yourself in a mirror or a dream. I hate info dumps, like when you're telling me a whole bunch of things right at the beginning and not spreading it around, spreading it out. Hate that. Let's see. I'm not one to. I don't enjoy dialogue right away, but it can work as long, it can work. So it's not something that's going to make me stop, but it has to be something that's written well. And that's about it. So I'm not picky.
Hi, Alyssa. So something that is going to get me requesting is when I get to the end of your sample and I'm like, where's the rest of it? If I can make it to the end of the sample without being dragged out of the sample for some reason, I'm going to want more. Something that's going to get me to pass fairly quickly is if it's obvious that I'm looking at a first draft, or it's obvious that I'm looking at a draft that hasn't been revised and isn't ready for Pitch Wars. It isn't ready for something that I can help you work on in 2 months, or it's something that I feel you need to go back to your craft, or you need to go back to your CPs, or you need to spend more time with the manuscript before I could help you work on it. I think that's about it.
For me, it's like Heather said, info dumping is a big one. If it's just drawn out descriptions and no action happens at all. And I'm a big stickler for tons of showing. If you're just telling, and if it's so weighed down by that, like I'm forgiving of the occasional error, of course, but where I've had manuscripts where I've read and it's just telling and info dumping and telling, and it's just like Carrie said, like you need to go back and work on your craft, and Jenny said that as well. Go back and work on your craft a little bit more, because there's just too much to. It gets when the manuscript's so weighed down by that kind of stuff. I can't. The pacing's off, right? So.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's we get a large volume of submissions. All of us do. There's a number of people who, want to be part of Pitch Wars. It's such a wonderful opportunity, and we wish we could say yes to so many. But because we're reading through so much, we have to connect with something in the piece. We're not expecting perfection, but you have to connect somewhere. So if I get laid down again with overly descriptive passages that is not allowing me to connect with either the subject matter or a character or something, it's going to pull me out of the piece, and that's tough. If there are excessive grammatical issues, we're talking missing words, and we're not talking about comma errors, because that's stuff that we can fix or this or that. But if it's excessive, then again, it's pulling me out of the piece. So try to make sure that the sample that you're getting to us has, not only been read by you, because it's so easy when you're locked in the piece to not see those things, but read by, beta readers swapping work with other people in Pitch Wars. So, avoid the info dumping, the excessive descriptions, things like that, and try to draw us into your story.
Okay, you guys have all touched on some really great stuff. For me, it's basically if the writing is just really flat, there's just not any kind of discernible voice or style to it. If it seems like it's just been sort of telling me this happened, then this happened, then this happened, without kind of drawing me into it and making me really just want to read your words, the language and the characters. I'm in their heads, and you need to really kind of bring more to it than just a list of actions that take place in the first part of your story.
It's hard being one of the last to go because people said so many great things, but for me, I would also say an emotional connection is really important, and that doesn't mean I have to love your character, but I have to find the characters compelling in some ways. Like, I think Patrick Bateman is a fantastic character. He's a monster. So I need to be compelled and fascinated and want to know who these people are, and also be really interested in what they're doing and the world around them. And that's so much to ask for an opening chapter, and that's why writing is so freaking hard. But it's going to be what makes me want to read further. And then in terms of what will make me pass, I think just to build off Marianne, what she was saying about, this happened, then this happened. If I don't feel like I'm getting inside the characters at all or the world. Like if it does feel like it's just either two-dimensional or something I've seen before, or feels like my big bugaboo is cliches. So if it's just riddled with cliches, if I don't feel like there's something unique and fresh about it, it's just very easy for me to stop reading.
What I'm looking for is an emotional connection, like all of these wonderful ladies have already mentioned, and I just want to be able to. I want to, when I get to the end of the sample that you send, I want more. That's what I'm going to inevitably be asking for. What I wouldn't suggest is that make sure when you are subbing that you're subbing to a mentor who is taking your genre. Don't sub to somebody who's not taking your genre, because that's automatically going to be a no. So make sure you are doing your research and subbing to people who want to read your story.
I'm going to jump in on that because I'm talking to people on Twitter, and if you say to me, hey, I write this, I might say, that sounds really great. Like, you write fantasy. I love fantasy, but I'm not taking fantasy. So just because I'm talking to you, and I really love talking to everybody on Twitter, be clear if you're asking me, do I like fantasy or am I taking fantasy? Those are two different things. So.
I'm the same way. When I like to talk to everyone on Twitter. I was that kid who talked to strangers all the time, and I just love talking to people. And last year, I really hate ghosts. I think it's great if you can write a ghost story, but I will get nightmares if you're good at it, and I can't mentor that. So last year, someone was like, hey, loved your profile. I have a great story about ghosts. I was like, well, thanks. As you can see, I don't like ghosts. Well, these are nice ghosts. And it was like this long conversation trying to convince me to take ghosts. And guys, I do not have enough money for therapy bills. So listen to our profiles. Our next question is from ST Sterling. Are any of you okay with light fantasy with a subplot of romance? Is the silence?
If it's literary-ish, maybe. But it's got to be literary-ish and meet that basic need of my wish list, which is on my wish list. So if you read my wish list and you meet my basics, I'm open to pretty much anything if you meet the basics.
Okay, so for me, I would love male-male romance, so the romance element for sure. If it's light fantasy, I would look at that. If it's getting a little more, if it's more fantasy than romance, probably not. But if it's playing equal parts, or if the romance plays a really, really, really strong role in the plot, I would consider it.
Cool. D.A. Kutrier Hines asks, in a manuscript, how dark is too dark for you?
Go, Margarita.
I have yet to find anything that's too dark for me.
I was going to say Margarita's all in.
I draw the line at bugs. There was like a Philip K. Dick novel I had to stop reading because there were roaches in it. And I was also kind of like coming down with the flu at this. So it was like a bad combination. But other than that, I don't think there's anything I've ever started reading and then like oh, look, this is too dark for me. So like, try me.
I've read Margarita's manuscript before, one of them. She's good. Go dark.
Yeah, Margarita goes darker than I do. So, like, I draw the line at Cormac McCarthy's Dead Baby Tree. So that's too much for me. That's gone too far. But not Margarita.
I'm with Jenny. Yeah, no dead kids, preferably. There has to be a really good and gentle way of handling that. You know, no torturing animals, preferably. Just things that are mean. But Margarita, yeah.
Dead baby trees. Wow. So this is great. Next question is from Elizabeth Callan, and it's on book series. How subtle can you go with a slow-growing romance, like it doesn't show up until book 3? How much do you want in book 1?
Are there hints? Like, are you foreshadowing this romance? Is there some hints that something's going to change? If you're getting me interested and I'm thinking, hey, there's a dynamic between these two characters, for me, I'm not a romance writer. I'm not mentoring romance. I'm okay if it takes a while in a series to get to the romance or the romantic relationship between two characters.
If it is a romance, then it needs to complete, the arc needs to complete in the first book for me.
While we're on series, this has been showing up in the Twitter feed a lot. What are your opinions on cliffhanger endings?
I'm going to say no cliffhanger, because especially in romance, it's just, you know, I'm okay with sadness at the end. I'm really okay with non-happily ever afters. I like women's fictions that have lots of romance but are like, I love gut-wrenching stuff.
I think you muted yourself by accident.
Okay, if you're going to have a romance book, I wouldn't personally leave it, because a lot of the times readers, you know, they don't want to stick around, you know, especially if this is your first book, you know. I say if you're like a really well-known author, it's different, but as a first-time author, probably not the best thing to have a romance or any book with a cliffhanger at the end.
I think it depends on the genre, because if you are going for something more experimental or literary, and if there's a purpose to it, like it can't feel like you got lazy and were like, I don't know, I'll just end it here. Like, there really needs to be a solid reason for why you chose it. And it's funny because I used to really hate that kind of, I remember when I in 7th grade I read the story The Lady or the Tiger, which is like the ultimate cliffhanger, and you don't know how it ends, and it drove me crazy. And I've been thinking about that story ever since, and like the fact that it kind of burrowed under my skin, now like over the years I've developed an appreciation for a well done cliffhanger. So I think it really, if it's thought out, I'm for it.
I'll agree with what Margarita says in the sense of what she's looking for. It can work extremely well. I think for traditional romance, if you're looking to be traditionally published, editors and agents, for a first-time novel from a first-time author, it's going to be challenging. So if that is the way you want to be published, then it becomes an issue, I think, if you want to have this cliffhanger romance that continues on. If it becomes in a more literary setting or something, it's a totally different ballgame. But will I accept it and look at it? Yes. Might I, if I fall in love with the book, might I have my mentee change it? Possibly. Somebody else go ahead.
Someone on one of the other chats, and I don't remember who, but said something that I really, really felt right to me. So if the emotional arc of the book is complete with the cliffhanger works. But you can't leave me feeling like I've been cheated. And maybe Margarita felt cheated with this short story, but she's right. It stuck with her. It did something. But I don't want to feel cheated at the end of a book. So if the emotional arc needs a cliffhanger, bring it on.
Awesome.
Now,
Now,
it can't.
Go ahead.
Sorry, it can't feel like I'm trying to trick you into buying a second book.
That's just not nice. Now, I usually stop halfway through, and I got so sucked into this awesome conversation. There's only 15 minutes left, everyone. Well, a little more. But so it's time for, let's look at Marie's shirt real quick. Hey, Marie, will you unmute yourself real quick, too, so that we can...
What she's really saying is, let's look at Marie's boobs real quick.
I mean, it is the adult chat, everyone. But Marie, unmute yourself so we can see the full screen of your awesome Pitch Wars
my Pitch Wars swag.
If you guys notice, it's gorgeous. I have a mug myself, and this year Pitch Wars did something we've never done before, and it's make apparel with Writer's Life Apparel, which is a clothing line / mug maker extraordinaire for writers. And 30% of the proceeds goes towards the amazing Pitch Wars community. So, I mean, what's better than getting cool author swag and helping Pitch Wars? So go to Writer's Life Apparel and get yourself a shirt. New designs are being released August 3rd, and I heard through the grapevine there might be a shirt that says Pitch Warrior on it, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of want one. So, with 15 minutes left, if you're just joining us or joined in late, remember we're going to take questions off of Ask Mentor, the hashtag on Twitter. We're going to try to get to as many as we can, but don't worry if we don't get to yours. We will answer them on Twitter as well, and other mentors who aren't necessarily in the chat tonight will also go on there and answer. Our next question is from Anne Terpstra, and she asks, what book have you read that changed how you thought about writing? Doesn't have to be nonfiction or instructional. Anyone want to go first? Carrie.
I'm sure there have been many books that have changed how I thought about writing, but the most recent one was Set Me Free by Beverly Whitmore Miranda, and her writing style is much more expansive than my own. The author gave herself a lot of license to explore really detailed thoughts and details that in the characters' lives that I, in my sort of, I don't know, very limited or nervous way of writing, kind of restrict myself. I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to write too much. And that kind of gave me the permission to be a little bit more expressive in my writing.
I have two, actually. The first one would be House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. And it's, one thing about it is it's a story within a story within a story, and then it has all of these crazy footnotes, and like the whole thing is basically the literary equivalent of being in a maze, and to create such a rich, crazy, dark, strange experience and like on such an ambitious level made me be like, okay, I've got to like really try to up my game here. And then the other one that I read just last year was Night Film by Marisha Pessl, and that one incorporated all of these really cool elements like photographs, and there's even an app for this book because it's about a film director, and it has all of these really cool little like audio and visual things like movie posters and interviews, and just that multimedia, again, that immersive experience was so unique and fantastic, and really put me in the world of that book in a way that not a lot of books do.
Awesome. Anyone else want to speak into favorite books? Yes, Marianne.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that I have degrees in literature, so I'm about to have them all taken away from me because the book I'm going to say is Outlander. And the reason for it is that it opened up a way to arc a romance that I hadn't really considered before in terms of how quickly it gets to the point of actually consummating the relationship and then continuing on with the story. It doesn't have to be the final thing that happens in the book. And I enjoy that much more, where they've already been able to get to a point where they have this, and they have different complications. It's not just all about working through when they're going to get it, you know. So, Outlander.
Yeah, for me, it's been, I would say, extremely eclectic. And what books influence you don't have to be necessarily in your genre, or even the way you write. Sometimes they're just inspiring. So I read, Erin Morgenstern's The Night Circus, even sort of before I started writing. And there's just something about the beauty of her language that just inspired me. And it wasn't anything specific, but something lights a fire in your gut that makes you say, oh, God, I can do better. Then, that can influence you. John Green, just adding a little bit of quirk to characters, and, his are intensely quirky, but sort of inspired to say, okay, if I just add a little something different to my characters to make them memorable, that's interesting. And then Christina Loren, those two girls who write as a duo for their romance show me that, humor and everyday problems can, impact a relationship, and it doesn't have to be this big, grand, angsty thing when writing romance. So lots of different books and things.
Awesome. So we have time for one last Twitter question, and then we're going to ask a question that I think all writers want to know. But this last question is from A. Benedetti. And A asks, will you read the whole manuscript to decide if it's query ready or something you can help with, or just decide from a sample?
I really want to be brave. I want to do that. I want to be brave and just like pick it from the first chapter and move forward, but I'm probably not that brave.
Yeah, me neither. I always request fulls. I feel like requesting partials for me, it's too much of a tease. So I I'll decide pretty quickly if it's not for me within the first 50 pages, but if it is for me, I need to read the whole thing, and I'm a slow reader, so I really spend like 2 full weeks doing little more than reading.
Anyone else?
I'll say that I'm going to read everybody's first chapter all the way through. If I request a full, I won't guarantee that I'm going to read it all the way through. I don't have the time for it. I'm going to read as much as I can, and then decide from there.
Awesome. Kelly, do you want to go?
Yeah, same for me. What Marianne said is I will. If something I will read everybody's first chapter from the first page to the end, give everything a fair chance. If something shows interest, I will definitely ask for a synopsis and for the full. That doesn't mean I'm going to read the whole way through, but read enough that I will probably narrow it down to 2 or 3 manuscripts at that point, and then probably shoot some questions to my potential mentee. And at that point, read one or all the fulls and make a decision.
Marie?
Yeah, I actually answered this question on Twitter earlier today. I said that if the first chapters, I definitely will read through all the first chapters that I get, and then I love synopses. I love to write them. That's probably one of my favorite parts of writing. So definitely, I will be asking for synopses, and then partials. I don't have time to read a whole manuscript, but definitely partials.
Marie is obviously part robot because nobody actually enjoys writing a synopsis.
You guys are awesome. So for our last question of the night, and for those who didn't get your questions read, don't worry. Some people are still going to go on and answer them on Twitter, even some of these people possibly. And but this question's a good one, so you want to stick to the end. And that is, what is the #1 piece of advice you have for writers trying to make it? And we're going to start with JR.
I'm so glad that you came to me for that one. You know what? It's perseverance. Like, you just have to keep at it and keep at it and keep working on your craft, and work and work and work and work and work and just keep doing it. And you're sure to fail if you don't try, right? So you got to just keep at it. And it's the people who persevere that get published. It's not the people who, write one thing and go, oh. It's a lot of people in Pitchwords, a lot of the mentors have written several manuscripts, right, before getting published. So it's a game of perseverance, right? It's a marathon.
Kelly.
Hi. Yeah, I imagine a lot of us are going to say the same thing. Perseverance. It's, you know what? There's so much rejection in every step of this business, and it is soul-crushing. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't mean you're not a strong individual. It is soul-crushing. And, I've been through some ups and some downs, and, I'm in a, good place now, but that changes in an instant in this industry. So it is hard, and if you struggle with that along the way, then it's going to be an upward battle. But if you can sort of hunker down and keep at it and keep improving, right? So it's not just about going at the same pace, but looking to see, can I take a course? Can I do, what else can I do? There's going to be lots of people who want to get into Pitchwords who don't, and I really hope that those people aren't discouraged to the point that they give up, because this is just one contest, and, becoming a good writer is way beyond that.
I forgot I was next. I have to add to that, my karate instructor, he has told me that the people who succeed are the people who just show up. So show up. And secondly, I'm going to go back to finding your tribe, because there's a special probably figured out that has that when you're a writer, you talk about things that nobody else cares about. So you need to find your people so that you can get your crazy on with them. And I think that helps keep you going and keeps you sane.
I'd also, I just to add, when people say like perseverance and grit is really important, I think it's also a matter of not just improving your craft and writing a lot, but revising a lot. And you're probably, for a good book, most of most of us have to revise as much as we draft, if not more sometimes. And, you know, like anything I write goes through 7 or 8 versions before an agent even lays eyes on it, and usually gets revised again. So it really is, you know, improving yourself as a writer, improving the work as a writer, and then also knowing when it's time to set it aside for whatever reason. Either it's not working or it's the best it can be, and then move on to the next thing. And it's so tough, and I think because it can be so emotionally daunting and draining, setting aside that time for self-care and make sure that, you know, you do have support around you, you have a life and interests and things that are going to inspire you to write more stories and be in the right frame of mind to write them, is also important. So, you know, you need to take care of yourself as much as you're taking care of your craft.
I think oh, go ahead, Marie.
Sorry. Obviously, if you are joining or aspiring to be in Pitch Wars and you want people to read your story, and why are you writing? Are you writing for you? Are you writing for the world to see your stories? And if that's the case, if you're in it for the long haul and you want to see your works in print for other people to read, you have to be open-minded and listen to people when they try to give you positive feedback and constructive criticism. And a lot of times we're so close to our own writing that we don't want to give our babies away to other people and have them tear them apart. But that's how you grow, and that's how you learn, and that's what you, going into this contest and into publishing in general, that's what you have to be able to do, is to be like, kill your darlings.
I was going to say that perseverance is what you need to get through this, but I also want to say this so that people can hear it, and it's okay to give up temporarily. It's okay to take breaks. So I just finished writing a novel that killed me, and I'm on a writing break, and this writing break is going to last until I feel like writing again. So right now, I'm on a pause, and I'm pausing for my mental health, and I'm pausing so that I'm excited to sit down and write again. So perseverance is a long-term activity, but it doesn't mean that you can't take some time and take a break if you need a break.
So I want to say I love this question, but I'm going to redefine it a little bit as, you know, so how does it, or I guess my answer is that writers need to redefine what make it means. If make it means be a bestseller like J.K. Rowling, we're all going to lose our minds. And I'm not going to spend my one life on this earth pining after something that I can't get. And so I think the secret for me, at least, has been to find the intrinsic joy in writing and all the things I love about it, like researching some crazy part of history that I never thought I'd get to think about, and becoming, you know, almost an expert on something totally ridiculous, learning about how people think about things and exploring humanity in a way that's fascinating and beautiful, and not letting something extrinsic and outside of my control guide my happiness, because ultimately we all have to decide whether or not we're going to be in control of our happiness or not. And the publishing industry, you know, doesn't really give a shit about whether or not you're happy. You know, they want a good story, and so that's great. We should try to write good stories, and I think it's worthwhile for all of us to be out here aspiring to those extrinsic goals, but you really have to keep a focus on yourself and be gentle with yourself, and remember always why you love writing.
I feel like I'm going to be repeating what I said the last time I was on the chat, but my biggest piece of advice is to write what you want to write what feels good, what makes you remember, you know, why you got into this in the first place. Remember that, you know, you want to write for yourself at first, and yeah, later on down the road you want some people who are going to love your books, obviously, but first and foremost you have to take care of yourself and remember why you started in the first place. And another thing is, read in your craft, read in your genre, read outside your genre. Just read, 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 because what better way to learn how to be a better writer than to read other people's, to build, build your strengths and your weaknesses, and, that's my biggest piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic hour with some of the coolest mentors I've ever met, and I know a lot of mentors, guys. So I love these people. Thank you for coming on, and thank you all for watching. A special shout out to our Twitter captain, Michael Mammy, who was awesome tonight, fielding your questions on Ask Mentor. If your question wasn't asked, don't worry. More people are going to go ask them or answer them. We're not going to ask you more questions. That would be silly. But feel free to ask anything, and we'll try to, get to it. And go check out Writer's Life Apparel and support Pitch Wars. And may the pitch be with you, everyone. I hope you learned a lot. I know I sure did. Have a good night.